Global revolution is happening. There are several countries protesting and going against their own government. Now, each country has their own reason specifically for what they're protesting for, but ultimately it's the people, the citizens of the country going against their own government. And I'm talking about a lot of countries. I mean, we're talking about UK, Australia, Indonesia, Serbia, Canada, USA, Spain, Japan, and many more countries. Guys, there's even protest slash rebellion in video games. In the fucking digital world with Roblox. Like what? So peep that it's not just the government, but it's a big corporation as well, who just care about profits and neglect everything else. And this is definitely a global thing because Roblox is an international game, and I think it's the most played game this year. And these are not just like little protests, they're massive protests. So I'm just going to put it simply, this is just good versus evil. So what it seems like is that there's many governments across the globe that are just corrupted. And these governments don't really care about their citizens, they're just going against their citizens actually. Now it's been like this for so many years, but finally people are starting to wake up and realize the truth, and they're actually starting to stand up for what is right. Now, to me, this is very inspiring to see, and it gives me a lot of faith. But what fascinates me about this is that it's a global thing. It's not every country, but it's many, many countries spread out across the globe. You're talking about countries from different parts of the globe entirely. Why this is fascinating to me is because you would expect maybe like it only being a few countries, or if it's many countries at least at like different times in history, or maybe with like differing intensities, or with like different reasonings. But this is so many countries across the globe happening at the same time in history at similar intensities, similar like anger, similar protesting, similar rebellions, and for similar causes. To me, this points to a deeper connection between all of us. I believe we are all connected consciously, and this is a trend happening to the collective consciousness, humanity, whatever you want to call it. It's somehow played out that many evil and corrupted people are the people who govern our world. And now the citizens of each country are starting to realize what is happening. They're starting to become more aware, but at such a fast rate, and all at the same time. I think it's this heightened awareness or consciousness that has allowed people to realize the issue and come together and actually do something about it. I believe humanity's consciousness is evolving as a whole, and these protests and rebellions are just a sign of that. Another potential reason for this trend of a global revolution is the internet. The internet now allows information to be decentralized. So people now have more access to information around the world, and people can actually talk about their issues happening in their own countries. They can spread awareness easier, And it's easier to set up protests like this with the communication of technology as well. But the internet now allowing information to be decentralized allows information to be transferred from citizens to citizens about the screwed up shit that they're doing about their country. Whereas before, when the internet didn't exist, information and knowledge was a lot more centralized. So I feel like a lot of countries were corrupted and a lot of governments were corrupted back then. But then the people really couldn't do anything because they didn't have much knowledge. They weren't aware of what was going on. People were unable to communicate with themselves. They would use propaganda to try to, you know, hold the information, hold the knowledge of what's truly going on, all the corrupted stuff behind the scenes. So the internet is definitely a reason why we're seeing this global revolution at this time. But I do still think it is connected to this spiritual evolution or this consciousness evolution that we're seeing. Now there has been some protests in the US, but it hasn't been like that intense, and most of the time it just gets shut down. But I believe things are going to start intensifying if things don't change, which PS they're not going to change if they keep going at this rate. So people are going to start protesting for real. Now the reason I think the protesting hasn't been as big or as united as in other countries is because the United States system is very good at dividing its people. For one, if we think about it on a geological level or like a landscape level, the US is huge, right? So there being so much distance between the citizen doesn't really allow people to, I guess, connect as much and have a community. For example, like Indonesia, where the rebellion is really insane and the revolution is really strong over there. I think one of the parts that make the people unite there is because it's a small country compared to the amount of people they have there. So there's about 284 million people in Indonesia, and it's a really small place relative to that amount of population. Whereas the US is about 350 million, and but the land is huge. So I think this causes people in the US to not connect as much towards a cause, or it's a lot harder for us to come together during protests or any sort of rebellion. Also, the US is very divided because of its political system. It's always left versus right, and it's hard for people to come together towards one cause. Most of the time, it's really hard to make change this way because there's always people opposing the other side. And yes, this is good for balance, but there's a lot of division that comes from it. Then you have technology, which is in every country, but in the US it's very prevalent, especially after COVID. We have no designated social areas or communities where a lot of these other countries do have that, so we mostly just connect through the internet. The internet is kind of like our social space, which is not good. Also, the government increases a lot of censorship, and that also includes the mainstream media as well. And I mentioned censorship because it blocks off many people from a lot of the information used to build a bigger movement for protesting. Like, mainstream media doesn't cover the genocide in Palestine, and the government doesn't cover that either. And same thing for like any reason to protest or rebel against the government. And not to mention, the news cycle is changing so fast that people barely have enough time to process and focus on one issue. And then people are too busy working. They're working a 9 to 5 and don't really have the energy or time to do that, to rebel or to protest. And another thing is like the US has a very high standard of living. So I think people are just very comfortable and they don't really feel the need to protest or rebel against anything because they have AC and they have food and, they're just chilling. For them, it's like, why do I need to protest or rebel against anything? So that's why I think the protest and rebellion has been on a small scale in the US, but based on the trend that these other countries are going through, I think it's going to increase. And also, frankly, it's because it's the truth. There's many evil people in position of power that are causing millions to suffer. I think it's starting to become pretty clear for the world where the issues lie, which is in the corrupted government. Again, a lot of these countries are complaining about the same things, including the US. They're complaining about minimum wages, censorship, injustices, and etc. And here's the thing, people are really fed up and frustrated with the government in the US, and they have been getting exposed recently like crazy. The trash healthcare system, the tyrannical government, a government that supports a genocide in Palestine, and then not to mention you have the Epstein files, which were a huge exposure. And it really highlighted how corrupted these people are in position of power. Like, the Epstein files confirmed that these people are pedophiles. I think that this rebellion or revolution movement happening across the globe is connected to these Epstein files as well. Because remember how I mentioned the US system does a very good job at dividing people, especially in the political sense, between left and right. But the Epstein files is a rare instance where both the left and the right agree. So it's basically an opportunity where people can unite together and really expose what's happening on a government level, exposing how corrupted things really are. And once the files are released and it's exposed that these people are pedophiles, all hell's gonna break loose. At that point, then people will strongly start to rebel. I think enough people are frustrated, aware, and willing to protest if such a thing were to come out. Also, if information were to come out like that and people don't rebel or protest, the tyranny is only going to get worse. The tyranny will prosper and it will only grow larger. So people have to do something about that. And the Epstein files are just actually in time to get exposed with the rest of the global revolution that's happening. Because the recess that the government went on in August is finally over because it's now September. And the subpoenas that the Congress has against these Epstein files to get exposed can finally start to get processed again. And obviously, there's a lot of people in the government that have been dodging and delaying these subpoenas because, they don't want to get exposed. They know that if these files were to get released, there would be huge rebellion, there would be huge consequences, and they would get kicked out immediately. Guys, and just as a reminder, I saw this comment somewhere that said something like, and it says, remember, breaking immoral or unethical laws isn't bad when it's needed. And most of the time when it's needed, it's because of tyranny and to push back against the tyranny. If not, it will get worse. And it's something along those lines, but basically I agree. And I just wanted to throw in that reminder there. So yeah, these are pretty insane times, and we're having a fucking global revolution happening right now. And yeah, that's just insane. And it's crazy because it's good versus evil. You have the citizens of countries, the people versus their own government, which is just crazy. So yeah, there's going to be lots of upcoming change, which I'm excited for because I believe the people and good will ultimately come out on top. So yeah, man, I'm praying for every country that is going through this revolution or this rebellion, and I'm praying for them because they're standing for what is right. I'm also praying to the people that are going through unfortunate wars right now or the genocide in Palestine. I'm also praying for those people as well. And yeah, I'm definitely with and supporting all these people that are standing up for what is right in each of their countries. So that's about it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.